Devina Mehra joins us now. Let's connect with Devina and understand what she makes of the current global construct and where markets have headed. Devina, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Always so lovely to have you on the show. Fitch has
Good morning,
downgraded
Pankaj.
US outlook. Their rating is not having, or their view is not having impact on global markets per se. So do you think both global markets and Indian markets should ignore what the latest rating change from Fitch is?
Yeah, good morning, Nikunj. As far as the rating change is concerned, actually, it was not new information from for the market. I mean, the rating itself doesn't really matter in the sense the issues that it referred to were already well known in the markets, whether the debt ceiling, which has not happened for the first time, they're hitting the debt ceiling, and obviously the debt to GDP is high. The deficits are high, which is of course separately from the ratings is the part that's kind of back of the mind, little bit of a worry that the current account deficit and plus the fiscal deficit in the US, the twin deficits remain high. But this is not, as I said, none of the issues themselves were new news for the market, which is why probably the market. I mean, it did react a bit here and there, but broadly it was already known. And the fact is that even as we speak, if you talk of global risk-free instrument, there is still no instrument which comes anywhere close to US treasuries in the minds of the world. Because what's the alternative? Would you want to buy a China treasury? Uh, and as far as even Europe is concerned, while uh, they have navigated 25 years better than I thought they would, but the fact is that there are a lot of disparate elements that are being managed in terms of very different economies, very different fiscal situations. And if you go back to the great financial crisis of 2008-9, we saw uh, how some of those things can almost go to breaking point in a crisis.
Okay. Uh, Markets have had a good run up, and some would argue that a lot of triggers now are already they've already played out. Adani stocks have revived, monsoon has been okay, margin pressure seems to be abating. So what is next for the market now?
See, I am not one for narratives because, or to say, and this happens let alone on a longer term basis, on a day to day basis, what happens in the markets, and we like to fit a narrative to that, whereas that may or may not be correct. If the US market falls and India also falls, then we are falling because of global cues. If we don't fall, then we are decoupling. So even on a daily and weekly basis, I see that kind of commentary. So if I look at a broader outlook for India, for one, as I have spoken earlier on your channel, we had a very long period of underperformance in the whole 2010 to 20 decade when we were far below the trend line. Instead of that 15, 16 compounding that we expect from Indian equity markets, that whole decade we compounded only 8% at a time when fixed deposit rates were 7-8%. So we were far below the trend line. That's why once the revival came post the COVID crisis, I did expect it to last long, and therefore also the risk of a crash goes down because the crashes really come when the markets are far above the trend line, and we're still not there yet. If you look at, just while I don't necessarily like to look at index level P's, again, we are not at very stretched numbers. We're in, I think, the 22 to 25 kind of range, which is not horribly high. And as you said, margin pressures are easing, but that has not, come into the numbers completely yet. It is starting to come into the numbers. And part of the reason, of course, is the commodity prices have come down, particularly downstream from crude. Though, of course, now crude has bumped up a bit, but still compared to last year, we are down significantly. Some of the agri commodities also have come down from peaks. So all of those, I mean, the positives are still there. And as I said, the market starts going up again, you will start hearing the India growth story and so on. So the narratives just follow exactly what's happening in the market. So coming back to the market in March end, I had said this is time to get in, which when the index was sub 17,000, it's obviously run up from there, but and there might be a pause, there might be some correction here and there, but I think the broad trend still remains. We still like equities globally. We still think India will outperform.
Hi, this is Anisha also joining in the conversation. One space which is getting on everyone's consensus buy is now the healthcare sector, and especially I'm talking about diagnostics and hospital names. Would you agree with that view?
We have added healthcare, but more on the pharma side from the beginning of the year. So every rebalance, we rebalance every quarter. So we've seen more healthcare names, but more, as I said, on the pharma side. There have been a couple of others also. And there are, among other sectors, that's one sector where our weightage has gone up in the last 6-7 months.
The other sectors where the weightage has gone up apart from pharma?
Yes, so just if I look at top down, so the capital goods and industrial machinery, I've spoken in the past that we have liked since October 2021. So there actually we have trimmed some because we booked profits and because some of those stocks went up 2, 3, even 4 times. But we will still be the most overweight, if I talk about most overweight in that sector. This calendar year, where our weights have gone up have been auto components, pharma, as I said, a couple of construction names. Interestingly, for the first time in years, our systems in our last run, which is the June end run, are showing up with more FMCG names. I mean, it's not that the sector is a thumping buy, but for the first time, we are seeing more stocks there. Of course, last year ITC was among our big winners and Britannia was also there, but we didn't have a whole lot of FMCGs. Now our systems are beginning to like those a bit more than they used to. Banking is still, was something which we went to market with, which is a big, actually a positive vote, given where we usually are in banking about a year ago, little more than a year ago. And that still continues as an outperform sector. Again, there's been some internal juggling in terms of stocks, but that would still be somewhat, at least slightly more than market weight.
Forced you to go into banking overweight? Over the years we've interacted, you've been very vocal, you don't like banks, you don't like financials. But for somebody who's not like financials, even going market weight, I think it's a big change in stance. What prompted you?
So this is only the banks. I mean, the NBFCs, we have negligible weight still. And banks, what prompted me last year, as I said, this is about middle of last year, so a little over a year ago, was 2 or 3 things. One, of course, again, I'm not wedded to any views. So banking, we had very low weight in 2020, which worked out very well. 2020, this banking was the only sector index in the negative. In 2021, it was not negative, but the market, I think, went up 22% and the Nifty Bank went up 11%. So there was a big gap. It went up only half as much as the market. In middle of 2022, we thought that the trend was changing. And if you look at the fundamentals also, there were a lot of positives. The NPA cycle was behind them in the sense they had already taken the hits, and credit growth was accelerating. Again, you could see that interest rates would tighten, and the beginning of a tightening cycle, the banking margins go up simply because you raise interest rates on the loans first and the deposits, the rates go up much more slowly only when the deposits come for rollover and so on. So there were all the fundamentals side, as well as the fact that it had been a dog sector for a while, and we thought that was changing. So those were the things. And but yes, I mean, as you rightly pointed out, I'm generally a nervous investor in banks because you don't know where the negative surprises are hiding. As an outsider, you have no idea where the money won't come back.
Just wanted to zoom out a bit and talk to you about in terms of how the global setup is and how India stacks up. This morning, of course, the big headline came in from Morgan Stanley, wherein they have upgraded India to an overweight. And from number 6, it's suddenly gone to number 1, and they are saying valuation is not that expensive, which you also said. But in the entire scheme of India versus China, do you think there is a case that China will also see a bit of a reversal of trend? Because I think that's what your view was, that China could be the next big mover.
Yeah, so I mean, it is not India versus China. Both can be go up, and generally, in fact, when the emerging markets move, at times they move as a pack. So it is not a versus situation. And India, as I said, I talked about 2010 to 20 as being below India's own historical compounding. But the other point also was that in that whole decade, we were generally an underperformer. We were always below the global averages. And again, that changed. And 2021 was the first year that began to change. And that's why, again, I thought that the outperformance trend would continue, because when that trend reverses. So last year, for example, in dollar terms, we were down, but we were still in the outperforming bucket. We didn't do quite so well in the first half of the year, but I think that will change. I mean, again, India is among the countries that are in our outperformance bucket, along with Germany, France, Mexico. Japan was a country which we watched for a long time in the market for a reversal, and we thought that we made that big bet in May that now Japan will do well, which it has. And as far as China is concerned, yes, I mean, China is somewhere where it is on our watch list for a up move. So it is not like very, very clearly there yet, but it is the more likely move is up for China as well.
Devin, always appreciate your time, and thank you so very much for joining us.